So I'm Emma Pinoteau. I'm a French artist. I do visual art, tattoo, performance, and sound. And I'm working on the adaptation of a Mexican tale called La Loba. The story of La Loba is about a spirit or someone you meet when you're lost, and she's picking the bones of animals that she found in the place, abandoned place, like a desert, mountain, or a forest. And when she has an entire skeleton, she sings, and the wolf is bringing back to life. And what was interesting for me in this tale was the way of putting attention on something that's going to disappear, and how we bring something that's still part of the living, but is in a way like perceived like dead, like how we put it back in the living and we use it has some, I don't know, like some expression, vocal expression or physical expression or sculpture. They usually say that it's a woman, but we don't really know because there is no text like about this story. So it's something about the sharing with the voice and people who are like sharing through generation. This tale is not something written. So last year I was in a residency with a cross project in Italy, and I started to work about like the domestication of the living through the forest exploitation. And I started to work with the forest element and the idea and the concept of the nature, what is the forest and also the wild, and why we divide it from the civilization. And I discovered this tale. Someone sent it to me, and I thought it was interesting to mix like the research of the how we domesticate animals and the living now through like the taming of the dogs, and so first with the wolf. When I arrived in Can Serrat, I was thinking about this and how I could adapt non-directly like the tale, because I wanted also to connect it with the research I was doing here about the wolf and how through history we used the dog and we built a relationship through the modification also of this species of the wolf to create dogs and different kind of dogs. And also in the same moment, I was having really a deep need to explore more the body and the somatic body. I started in May here like a kind of a workshop every week. What was interesting me in this place was to like regroup people, create group through these actions, and to explore some exercises or some moments, some action, really simple, to build some groups and to share about like our lives, our body, and to get in a way out of our own identity and individualism. And what happened is I created this character with some snails I found in the forest and around the house. And I felt like it was really interesting because it was replaying also the loba, because I was picking the snail, and it was a way to save something who were about to disappear and who used to be alive and is not, and to bring it back to life in another way. So I started to paint them in gold, because for me it was interesting to take something you see every day but never really pay attention on, and to bring it like with gold, like in the most precious thing we can see in life or have or get in life. I created a costume and some instruments with it, and I did some experimentation with people. It was called like, will you follow me in the dark? And I was asking them some questions before starting, and after that we were having a walk, but the people, it was one by one, and the people who did that was always blind. So it was a way also to get through their own like individuality and thoughts, but to had also this experience of this journey like differently, and to also focus not on the sight, but also focus on the sound I was making and the singing also I was doing around. I started to, when I was walking in the mountain and the forest, to find some quartz, some white quartz, and it was really magical because it was like it was calling me, and I started to take it, and I felt also it was like some piece of the mountain. So I was collecting some fragments, and I used to work on the idea and the concept of a fragment and how we rebuilt something new with it. And I started to shape them for looking as dog's teeth. And I want to create like a costume, also to create another character inspired by this loba, this also the same process, but now with mountain. So for the dog's teeth, I was thinking of creating maybe something like a costume with fabrics. For the character with the mountain, it was more about the sight and see the mountain in another way and wear the mountain. And I discovered here through someone who came to talk with all the people in Can Serrat, someone who is working in Copons in a village in the north of Catalonia. She is using a lot of different elements and also the leaf of the trees to create like printing on the fabrics and creating her own design. I felt it was the way I wanted to draw the fabrics, I wanted to experiment. She also told me about a project they do with a residency in Copons that's called In Loft. They did a project with another artist, I don't remember her name, and they did a technique, a printing technique called frottage, and they were with a sponge taking some iron and putting in the fabric to have a shape of the rocks. And I felt it was amazing, and I started to ask her if she could like teach me this technique, and we started to experiment that some weeks ago. And I know that I want to come back to here to continue this exploration, to make a shape of the mountain of Can Serrat on some part of the rocks, and to create not performance but more like a sharing with people, where you have like the fabrics with the shape of the mountain in like a scenography or in installation, and after that like the mask and the costume of the people with the dog's teeth, and in a way to make a link between the mountain and the dogs, and how also people can use these fabrics as costume, but also like people who are not like part of the process. The concept of Can Serrat is really related to my project, to the way of building groups, or to what you do with the individuality and the group and the community in the same place. The way to learn that I can live in another country for 5 months and meet people from all around the world and feel that we are a family. Even if they leave, we still keep in touch and want to see us again in the future, or collaborate, or it's really open-minded, and everybody's background is different, every culture is different, and I still could feel like we were connecting really deeply. I could learn here is that sometimes the nonverbal communication is better than the language, and it's sometimes powerful with people you met. We could understand really deep thought and question about our life, about philosophy and stuff without talking the same language. And for me, it was one of the, I think, the more powerful lesson I get here.